my trip to Nepal. It was fantastic. I just got back a couple days ago, still recovering from the time difference, but it was fantastic. It was a conference for teenagers. There were 175 kids signed up, pre-registered. Ended up, when they were there were over 210 kids representing 19 different churches in the western part of Nepal. It was pretty overwhelming, but your prayers were felt. I mean, we don't just ask for prayer because it's something that you should do as Christians. I mean, it's actually effective, and I felt it. So thank you very much for that. After I asked you to pray for me 3 weeks ago, Gary Nelson and Meredith got together and said, wow, if there are pastors who don't know how to read or write, maybe we should get some audio Bibles for you in Nepali. And they got that together for me, even though I was leaving less than a week after I asked you guys to pray for me. I had 8 of those audio Bibles to take over with me, which was well received. So I brought a flag, which Jeanette will recognize, the Nepali flag. But I asked the pastors who are at the pastor conference to sign it. And so this is a thank you for you guys for praying for me for the trip. So there you go. That's all. Yeah.
Okay. Our second superhero is James, and James spent some time working with Samaritan's Purse in Boone, North Carolina, and he also was a driver for our delivery of our goods that we donated for the hurricane damaged area. So, James, if you would come. And you get longer than Kevin. We know to limit him, okay?
I was told I had 4 minutes, so.
You got it.
So I was inspired to head back down to North Carolina. Katie Hood suggested I look into the Samaritan's Purse operation. A lot of folks were familiar with their shoe boxes, but they do a whole lot more than that. They have this website, volunteer, sign up, lots of options, lots of responses. I guess that Oklahoma City is probably a newer thing, but I picked Boone County at the bottom there, and I was very clever, and I thought I would search my maps on how to get down there. And they would caution you there might be flood damage, so check your state VDOT or your DOT, which I did for North Carolina, and then ultimately I took a route that took me through Tennessee, which didn't work out too well. So you see on the top left there, a lot of roads were closed, and my map said it would take me a 2-hour detour to get around. I talked to the local sheriff. He gave me a back way to get to Boone, ultimately, but you could see there on the left, they just had single lanes traveling through these roads. They're literally building the roads in front of me as we're traveling. The gravel trucks are pulling up and building the road in front of you, and ultimately I made it without any problem. You can see some of the damage I'm seeing just driving in some of the worst areas, Damascus, Virginia, and then Mountain City, Tennessee. You see the top or the right on the middle there, just the debris. These are persons' family belongings, and we have to be careful not to call it debris. But we're running into a lot of that. But I was fortunate enough to make it down there. There was a church down in Boone that essentially donated their facilities to us. They had big sanctuary, had a gym with showers. There was 100 of us that stayed for several days. So they had all the provisions for us. You can see the bottom left, the tools. They have all their crews. One of the problems they were experiencing was they didn't have enough crew leaders to handle all the volunteers. They said the first week they had 1,600 volunteers a day showing up. They couldn't fit them all in the church, so they had these gatherings outside. What they did on the top left, they had this nice orientation video, safety, chainsaws. Franklin Graham gives his greeting. Quite a nice operation. The Saturday I was there was 100 of us staying over, but that Saturday there was 850 day volunteers that showed up to help. So again, they've got the trucks, they've got the tools, and they sent us out on these projects. And here I am on day one. There's 30 persons at this residence. They call it a mud out. The house wasn't washed away by any means, but the water had gotten so high it just deposited sediments and mud in their home. So what we were doing was getting this contractor ready. So you can see where we're pulling up the floors, the hardwood floors, which is kind of a shame. This house had old horseshoe nails in the floor. You can tell it was this really old home. But we had this clean like you could eat off the floor. It's remarkable. Before we leave, we're going to get this done. Every nail sticking out of the wood. You see that woman on the right? She's got a lot of insulation that somebody had gone under the crawl space for hours to clean out all that stuff. And that wasn't my assignment, but people just jumped right in. Folks from Maine, New Jersey, just everywhere. You strike up a conversation. These people were coming from all over and just dedicating days and weeks of their life. This was another site, a young couple just purchased this home right next to a stream there. If you see sort of on that top middle picture, that was their grassed yard. They were describing how this was just a beautifully mown yard, which you could tell the energy of the water coming down to be able to deposit these huge boulders. So that certainly becomes another issue just with regard to where these homes are located. These folks are not used to seeing these type of rain events. And a couple more slides. On the left, this is the 100 folks that are staying over. They fed us very well. It's quite remarkable. And every evening we'd sit down and everybody would share their God moment. And one that I heard that I'd like to share with you, some other team had gone to a house. There's an older gentleman in the home, and he was able to drive his car out. The house was underwater. He told his son to go back in and retrieve his medication, which was on the bedside stand with his Bible. The son went back in there, and he says the appliances were all over the house. The water had obviously gone up to the ceiling, and the Bible and the pills were on that bedside stand that apparently had floated to the top and then came back down to the floor were untouched. And I would say, in just my journey, people are thanking me for my efforts, and I felt it filled me up remarkably. A lot of students from NC State came up that day to help this young couple, and every homeowner, we gave them a Bible. Said prayers with these folks, and a lot of the God moments people were sharing were just the impact it had on these homeowners. And I would just say, when I'm sharing my story with some of my friends and family, and I like to think that we're not hearing enough of the good news. We hear a lot of the debates and why people disagree, but I think this is our country. This is what it's really like out there, folks. So I wanted to share that with you. And just the last thing, we had a second round of donations. I said, hey, I'll take them down on my way, and they would not accept them. They said, too much. We have too much. Our problem now is distribution. So again, that's a good problem to have, and I appreciate sharing this with you guys.
Wow. Okay, Corey, can you follow that? All right, come on.
That was a great lead-in with the distribution. So, first of all, thank you. Thank you for allowing myself and the others to go down to Ashe County, North Carolina, and be your representatives down there. You can see the first slide there. This is just a quick update. We went to, the team was the Hoods and my wife, myself. And speaking of a tough act to follow, Katie Hood is like the Energizer Bunny, and it's tough to keep up with her, but if there's one person that can, it's Steve. It's not myself, and maybe Kim could, but next slide. Here's a quick just recap of what was collected. Just over $10,000. We gave a check to to Warrensville Baptist Church and Pastor Stone, $5,000. $2,000 went to what they call now the Hub of Hope. was the arcade that we worked at. With that donation, I'll let you know, it doubled. And how did it double? There's a business, Acorn, out of Asheville, North Carolina, that said that for every dollar they take in, they will match that up to $250,000. So that's an amen there. We, before we left, purchased a bunch of buddy heaters, the cords that go with that you can convert it from 1-pound tanks to use a 20-pound tank. We then got down there and purchased 16 of the 20-pound propane tanks to go with those. One thing it's depicted, or sort of depicted, is CO2 detectors. The first night we were there, we met Dr. George as we're out eating, and Dr. George shared with me that several people have already come into his clinic because they've been basically gassed themselves with CO2. So getting those detectors out there as these people are using these heaters in tents, in 8x10 sheds because their homes were washed away. We can go to the next slide. So again, on the left-hand side here is, in the middle there is Jen. She is one of the gals that runs the arcade, or the Hub for Hope. And on the right-hand side was Pastor Stone. He was literally floored, very emotional, as we all were with doing this. Next slide, please. There's Pastor Stone and his wife Tina in the middle there, as we're at the center there doing sorting, and just had presented him the check. Do I feel like our donations and our efforts went to the right place with this? Absolutely. A quick story of, there were shelves right there where Katie was working, and they were looking to get some more shelves. And there was a business, I guess, had been going out of business or something in that local area, and Jen had been there and asked the person, how much do you want for these shelves? And they said, I don't know, probably about $250. Well, earlier that day, she'd gotten an envelope, and she hadn't looked in the envelope. She'd put it into the safe, and she said, $250. She goes, let me think about that. She went and grabbed that envelope. In that envelope, $250. Coincidence? I think not. Next slide, please. So what's next? I call it our triple P. So the first is pray. Each morning, and this is a picture here of they would gather around and tell the volunteers, here's what you can expect today. And then they would have a prayer. The prayer first day we're there, our own Katie Hood prayed for us, and it was powerful. There was opportunities to pray for the people as they were coming in and getting and receiving the goods as they would roll in. The doors open at 11 o'clock, and you would just be flooded with people grabbing shopping bags, carts, whatever, and they would walk out of there with pretty much anything and everything they would need or want for that day or the next couple days or week. The warehouse is 70,000 square feet, and about every inch of it seems like it's got something on it or stacked. Sometimes it's stacked, 6 feet tall or higher. So, next slide. Second P is participate. How do you participate? There's Steve and Katie doing God's work. That is supporting those that are going down there, whether it's by praying for them, supporting those, or even going down yourself. That could be future endeavors. But just find a way that you can plug in and help these people out and just participate. The third P is prep. Again, I had to come up with some snappy. Prep. So Cindy Nelson is looking to put together some stockings, Christmas stockings for potentially Warrensville, the Baptist Church, and there's a little bit of movement there. We'll see how that works out, trying to make the connections there and how many we need. So in the future, look for ways that you can help out with that effort and opportunity to serve there. Next slide. It should be just say thank you. So that truck there is from Richard Childress Racing. I'm not a Toyota fan. The NASCAR championship is today. But Richard Childress Racing, that was the 7th truck that they've brought down there with beds, beans, and goods, what have you. So it was absolutely amazing. We had trucks come in from Ohio. Well, there are a couple different ones. You're meeting a lot of individuals. Romans 5:3 talks about perseverance or suffering, and these people are suffering, but it turns into that perseverance, and perseverance turns into character, and character turns into hope. And these people have hope at this point in time because you've done that. So, thank you. Meow.
Thank you.